So we have the pleasure today's show, a great leader, mentor, and coach in the San Antonio community, coming straight from Brennan High School, Coach Koty Cowgill. Coach, tell us a little about yourself. Go ahead. Dive right
This
into it.
dive right in. This is my 11th year at Brennan. Um, been was there 3 years on the girls' side, my 8th year on the boys' side. Just trying to get better every year. Just trying to survive, just like everybody else.
This is
I'm,
true.
I'm not gonna talk about, but I'm not gonna tell
I
like tell.
know, and hey, listen, now, hey, come on now, coach. You got to give me a little bit more than that, But it's okay. Don't worry. I know a little bit about you, so I'm going to go ahead and go from there as far as, and we'll just dive into your bio a little bit.
Actually, let me jump in. So you 11 years at Brennan. I didn't realize that you coached on the girls' side there as well.
Yeah, my original background was girls basketball. I was at UTSA for 7 years on the women's side. Missouri State as a graduate assistant for a year before that. Kind of left when my kids got to be, I guess, three to five, 3 and 5 were my oldest two. Said travel, really the game travel. I like the recruiting travel. The game travel was a lot. So got out, interviewed a couple different places, finished in the final two at Johnson. On the girls' side, ended up getting Randy Evans, the guy that ended up getting that job. Had a really good team over there. But he was at Brennan before, where they had been really good. They were 34-1. I interviewed at Brennan when it opened originally and didn't get the job. He got the job here, but had a good relationship with the principal, who was actually just inducted into the SISD Hall of Fame for winning a state championship at Fox Tech on the boys' side. So anyway, job opened up at Brennan, ended up getting the girls' job here. Went to state a couple times in my 3 years. Had a bunch of really, really good girls. I think we had about 11 or 12 girls that ended up playing at the Division I level in my few years here. Was really blessed, talent wise, good parents, good community. Man, Coach Hines, who was on the boys' side, ended up getting out of high school. And that kind of opened the door. And just, I don't know just crazy how blessed I am. I don't know how often they would look to hire and give somebody an opportunity coming from the girls' side. There's a lot of capable, really good girls coaches, but that's not something that you see a ton. So being blessed to have a principal that was willing to give me that opportunity was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with you being a coach at the collegiate level at UTSA, which is a good D1, that's where I graduated from, by the way.
Yeah.
But for you to be a collegiate coach and do the recruiting, how does that translate to how you help your high school boys now when it comes to recruiting and like just the knowledge share? You know what I mean? Because you have a wealth of knowledge that like a lot of high school coaches, they probably don't have that kind of insight into like the recruiting side at the truly at the collegiate level, like recruiting. I know you did it on the women's side, but
it's nice. Like me and a guy that coaches with me here at Brennan, Ian Ward, who coached at St. Mary's also, I think we're able to kind of give a little bit of that perspective of it's not, from that side as a recruiter, like I'm not really looking at stats. Like I don't really care about how many points a game you score. Like, like the stats don't really matter that much. So being able to preach those things from that perspective of it being more of a, your impact on winning and how much that influences where you go and how you do once you get there. I think from that perspective, it helps, having a little bit of context that of stats that do matter, stats that don't matter, like your efficiency, your field goal percentage. Like as a college coach, to me, that mattered. I think if I'm evaluating bigs, like I think your rebounds a game, I think that matters. Like I think those are stats that matter. Like that's the one stat that you can't be too selfish as a rebounder. Like if you get 20 rebounds a game, that's great. Nobody's gonna say you're hunting rebounds and that's a bad thing. You definitely hunt shots and that's a bad thing. You can hunt assists even, and that's a bad thing. Overpassing or trying to force the ball where it doesn't fit. But just trying to conceptualize for them the things that matter and the things that don't is great. Having Coach Ward being another guy that did it, recruiting, at St. Mary's on that level is another great tool, great, awesome thing to have.
Again, just a wealth of knowledge. And when we were talking earlier this week, me and Tally, he was telling me that, you coach at the collegiate level, which I didn't know. And then he also said that you've been coaching for so many years. And I said, man, he's only 30 years old. How is he able to have that much experience? And just joking, I know you're older than 30, but you look like you're only 30. But yeah, again, just giving you your kudos, man. You got so much experience, like coaching experience, that I don't think a lot of people knew about.
I mean, but that's what I was talking to Tally about a couple days ago when we were going down the rundown of what we were going to do on here. Like all this stuff, like all that experience. So like, I don't know, every time for me, like every time I went to a new job, it was like completely starting over because it was something totally different, right? Like going from Missouri State as a GA to going to UTSA, like doing all new stuff, totally different things, different roles, like going from being a director of ops to being an assistant. Like it's something that's not the same at all. Like leaving from being an assistant at UTSA to being a head coach in high school it's not remotely similar. Like there's very few similarities. And then the same thing going girls basketball to boys basketball, like that's it took me time, like to catch the pace, like to go and make that flip. I mean, the games are the same, essentially the games are the same, but just the approach is a little different, like what you're looking for, how you coach, like some of those things are a little different, so I don't know, like the experience is cool. Like it's awesome to have a lot of different things and a lot of different experiences, but I don't know, situation to situation, things change so much.
Facts. So with that, let's talk a little bit about your program over there, what you're doing over there for the Brennan High School boys right now. And one thing, what I liked last year, I like what you did last year. And looking over the past few years, I believe since you've been coaching the boys side of the house, you only missed 1 year of the playoffs. And then last year, compared to what you did, it's just a true, I think you are one of those personnel, you have a something about you that you want to be a master at what you do. You want to master your job. You want to master your craft, and it shows. And it shows how you coach and your abilities to do what you're doing. So to see you go far in the playoffs last year was like, wow. So can you kind of go over what you're doing over there to kind of get yourself each year to make the playoffs and then go as deep as you went last year?
Well, I mean,
team.
Just going back, I mean, from the start, I mean, I think every team coaches independently. Like I'll say like I don't ever come into a season with a win-loss goal. Like I don't really care about that. Like that's not the thing that we're chasing. Like I think our goal when we come into every season is to max out the group that we have. Like whatever that group has to give. Like to be honest, I've had some of my best years when we've lost in the first or second round. Like the year before last where we lost in the first round, I felt like we got as much out of that group as we could get out of that group. Like I felt like that was a really successful season. I thought last year, we squeezed most of it out. I thought we got most of what we could out of it. I thought we maxed out to a degree what we had to give, and a lot of that is, to be honest, is just any coach will tell you it's the kids, like the kids' willingness to come in and be coachable, the kids' willingness to be pushed, to work together every day, to buy into what you're saying and what you're preaching. And then the parents, like any coach will tell you, like the parents in high school sports are going to determine how much you love your job or how much you hate your job, and I've been really blessed for if I've been here 11 years, I would say nearly all 11, I've loved my job just because the Brennan community has been awesome and supportive on the parental side and really let us be us. That's something that we talk about a lot. Like it's such a blessing when you can coach teams where you don't have to mince your words or kind of be somebody that you're not, or try to have to worry like, if I coach him this way, how's he going to feel about that? How's he going to take it? But just, being in a spot where the guys allow you to really just be you and coach, and to say what you say and be who you are. Like that's such a blessing to have kids like that. But yeah, I mean, just hoping every year to get the most out of what we got. Actually, the one year that we missed the playoffs, we lost in a play-in. It was a 3-way tie between us, Warren when they had Stanley, Umade, and them, and then Holmes when they had Marco Anthony. So we had sophomore Jakari Sanders. We lost in that play-in. I think it was Warren that beat us over at Northside Gym, and then Holmes ended up beating them to get in and playing Wagner in that first round. So yeah, it's been, but even that year, I felt like we kind of got out of it what we could get out of it. It has only been a year or two that I felt like we kind of left something on the table that we didn't get to where we needed to.
Okay. So with this upcoming year, I know last year it was a friend asked me, out of all the schools here, what are some players that people are trying to watch? So that kind of goes to my next question about how we looking for this year, the upcoming year. And then for me, I know it's two kids that I've been following for quite a while, and one is your son and Kingston Fleming. So with both of those players, again, doing the great things they did last year. I know your son was injured for a little bit, but again, you achieved a great goal in getting in the playoffs and going as far as you went. How are we looking this year with those two young men? And then anybody else do you have that we need to be following?
I mean, I think for us, to start out, I think it'd be naive of me to not mention Robert Jackson first. A kid that's been that played for us last year, actually ended up in district leading us in scoring and rebounding. He broke our single season field goal percentage record last year at 72% on the season, which is, again, to me, stats that matter, right? Like your efficiency stats, those are important stats. For him to come back, have a great summer here all summer, going through our workouts, doing all that, investing in the group, being unselfish, working every day, kind of transforming his body a little bit, transforming his game. I think he's set to have a great year. If we're working our way down, I mean, there's others too. We got, Big Eddie is 6'7", 6'8". We had Zach Crawford move in, and he's one that I'm not sure if he'll get. We'll see on the PAPF piece. I mean, we're hoping that he's one that'll get through. I know he'd love to play his senior year. He came over from Harlan. Family moved into our zone, so we'd love to have him. He's another one that has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. I'm not
I thought that was
entire.
him the other day when I was there.
What's that?
I thought that was Zach the other day when I was there. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he's another one that will. I mean, if he's able to, I think he has a lot to give. He's a presence. He rebounds hard. He's a tough kid, coachable kid. So he's one that'll definitely make an impact. I mean, we go all the way down. Just talked about a few of the seniors. I don't want to go player for player. We'll be here all day. We got a bunch of kids again that can play. Javante Johnson. There's another 2025 kid that played for us last year. He had some injury issues. He broke his hand, was out for a few months, ended up coming back, catching a couple starts late. So we started 3 freshmen down the stretch, a number of games. Edison Onway came back from TMI. Like he was in our system. He was on my roster first day freshman year, ended up going to TMI, which I think was a good experience for him, a good learning experience, but coming back to the public sector for him is cool. Then we got our incoming freshmen. We got a number of those that have a chance to contribute. Everybody talks about the depth, like how are you going to play all the kids? How are you going to do all that? I think that's stuff that will tend to work itself out in practice every day. I'm not going to force feed 13 guys on the court. I don't think that's feasible or healthy. So they'll decide. The boys will decide. Should create a great practice environment for sure.
There's just something about your program and just like your players and your roster and you as a coach. Like everybody, number one, you have a very talented roster. It's like almost like you have an all-star roster because each one of those kids has their own personality. They play well and they all have a great personality. And then you at the head, you have a great personality. So it just seems like there's a lot of good character, within your team and, for whatever that's worth. But, I mean, each player that you mentioned, I personally feel like I know a little bit about them and, like, they all are heading in the right direction. They have the right attitude about the game, and it seems like Brennan is the right place for them. So you got a good group, man, and, you've been like that for a while. But now that some of your players are getting a little bit older and your roster is getting good and you guys look really good. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have a bunch of kids that are about the process more than anything. Like they're not here, or they're not in it. Like they're not, I don't know, entitled in any way. Like they'll show up and work every day. Like they're not trying to cut any corners. They're not asking for any handouts. Like they don't want handouts. They want to come in and compete and go about the process and invest in the group. I mean, they've all been willing to share shots and share spotlight and give to the group forever. That's a testament to the parents more than anything. Anybody that's done club basketball, anybody that's done basketball as a whole knows how important having unselfish kids is, and kids that are willing to give to the group. I mean, you can't really do it if they're not in that mind frame.
Correct. So mentioning that, how would you, if you had advice to give a brand new coach coming into coaching middle school, or no, more or less, let's just say high school, coaching high school, what advice would you give him him or her their first year, as what they probably should focus on versus not getting so caught up on the wins and losses like you talked about, but more or less to help build their philosophy?
I think what you just said right there is, I mean, for me has always been the biggest thing is don't put your focus on end results. Put your focus more on that process, on that development piece. Like we rarely talk about wins and losses. Like that's not really a thing that we have ever discussed. Is more about how you get to those wins and losses. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that you could rack up a ton of wins by playing inferior competition, or you could go like no matter what level you are, you can almost always go out and find teams that you can beat, right? Like you can almost always go out and find teams that can beat you. Like it doesn't really matter how good or bad you are. Like you can almost always go out and find teams that can beat you. So at the end of the day, like for me, it's not the wins and losses is really just a function of who you play more so than it is how you do. So we try to take our emphasis off of that result, the win and the loss, and put it more on what got us to that point in that game, making it action based, making it performance based. Are we living up to our standard? Are we playing the way we want to play? Are we giving what we have? Are we playing hard? Are we being disciplined? Are we executing? Putting our focus on those things more so than just what's that scoreboard say at the end. Like the scoreboard almost always take care of itself, but we've had games that we've lost and we've got in the locker room and felt like, man, I thought we played really well, just didn't end up going whatever it was, a bounce here, a bounce there, cost us in the end. And we've had games where we've won. We've had a lot of games where we've won that we've got in the locker room. It hasn't been celebration time. It's been, man, we didn't play well. That wasn't what we wanted to be. We need to fix these phases and all that. So just making it process oriented as opposed to results oriented would be my first suggestion.
Okay. The fact that you had the opportunity to coach both women and men, and which one do you think is the tougher of the two? What's the tougher to coach?
I wouldn't say like tougher. I would say it's just a little different mindset, like coaching girls. I mean, to me, like the X's and O's are similar. In boys, you probably need, I would say we probably need, or you could get by with slightly less X's and O's. You can run stuff to get guys in space, and you can put them in space to make plays,
Right.
Whereas a lot of times in girls, the set is the play. Like you running stuff to make the play in the set, so then it's more of a discipline piece and them executing and that being the finish of it. You do have girls for sure that you can put in space and they're going to make plays for you. Right. Like there are girls like LA Sneed, like Sammy Wagner, like
Yes.
now, like there's a lot of girls that you can put in space and they can make a play for you, but overall, like on the average team, you're running stuff to make the play for the kid, and trying to score and execute that way is how I felt. I also think that in girls, you have a lot of times where it's coaching girls and what to do. They're going to do to the letter exactly what you tell them to do, so you're coaching them to do like, hey, like take that shot. Like you need to attack here. You need to do this. Whereas in boys, I mean, you'll get a lot of boys where you're more coaching what not to do, right? Like, that's not your shot. Don't shoot that shot. We're not, that's not your pass. Like, come off the ball, right? Dribble a little less, whatever it is. You end up at times, like in a lot of situations, seemingly coaching the not twos as opposed to the twos is kind of flipped, is in my experience. I know everybody has their own experiences. That's the best way that I can conceptualize the way is gone for me.
That's a very interesting point, and you stated it beautifully. With that being said, focusing on the boys' side and like maybe what not to do, just kind of focusing on that, but from a positive, constructive criticism standpoint. And I'm relating this back to the recruiting journey. Like, what type of things can you tell high schoolers, high school boys, not just at Brennan, but across the board? What are things that they can do to increase their recruitment? Like what type of things as a player, what can they do? Like you just said, don't take those bad shots. What does a coach want to see? Like what do high school boys need to do, or what can they do better to increase their recruitment?
That's a tough one. I mean, the easiest thing to say and the most tangible thing is work, right? Work on translatable skills. Like most kids end up going to the level that they are. You know what I mean? Like coaches will in this age, like with live events that virtually anybody can sign up for, I mean, those shoe circuits and things like that. But there's coaches at the Gassos, there's coaches at Buffs events, there's coaches at, at a lot of stuff, right? Like, so anybody can put themselves or most can put themselves in a situation where they can go and play in front of coaches. Now, if you put in the work where you're going to be able to demonstrate that you can play at the level of those coaches, that's to me the biggest thing. I mean, I think that playing in a style that's going to fit who you are will help a lot. Like you'll see, I think anymore, like everybody's saying that everybody needs to be a guard, right? Like I think we'll see some guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", that are being told like, well, if you want to go to college, if you want to play in college, you got to be able to shoot the three, and you got to be able to handle the ball, and you got to be able to be a wing. You got to be, and that's great. Like I'm not saying that's bad advice, but there's a lot of kids that are just missing the component to me of just be a good basketball player, be really good, like be capable. I think that if you look at like Cole over with Coach Cantu last year, I think Dre Ray is a great example of that, right? Like Dre was him. Like he was him. He wasn't out there trying to play the one. Like he probably had point guard size, but he's on Incarnate Word's roster by being him. Like he was a real active, real elite attacker, where current talk will tell you like, man, you can't play that way. Nobody's ever going to give you a chance. You're not going to be able to do it. Well, I mean, if you make an impact, if you're good at basketball, they'll give you a chance. They'll give you an opportunity, because that resonates with everybody,
Hold up. You just stated some breaking news. Dre from Cole, like one of the top 3 kids, he's at UIW?
Yes. Yes.
How come you didn't tell me that? You the Cole guy, you didn't even. So that's
everybody
awesome.
knew that.
Everybody didn't know that.
When we talked to Cantu, he let everybody know he put 3 kids in D1 schools.
Well,
so that's one of his accolades as far as
all of them played their way, the way that fits them. Ray was definitely a scorer. I mean, Silas, you put the ball in the basket, was a great scoring guard, good feel, good passer feel, things like that. But they played the style that fit who they were, and that they didn't try to be something that they weren't. And again, like I think you're going to find coaches that resonates with. It might not be every coach, but you don't need every coach. You need one coach that believes in you and your game can resonate with.
Yeah. So kind of spin off a little bit in reference to the recruitment piece. I read your bio, and I looked and I saw you once was with the Tulsa Shock, now they're the Dallas Wings WNBA team. You were part of their make sure I get this, the advanced scouting group or program. So with that, why don't you tell us a good story about that? Like, tell us how that come about, or what'd you do, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I was at UTSA on the women's side, with originally the Silver Stars were here in town. So, and the guy that was kind of one of my first like real mentors on the coaching side, like I shared an office with, his name was Luby Lakonzak. He'd been a head coach at Radford on the women's side. Had a really, really great past, great resume, great stuff like that. Like coach for Tara Vanderveer, who's the head Stanford coach now. I mean, I think is the most winning coach in NCAA history. He'd worked for her. So we shared an office, and he'd get these jobs like people would. Originally, it was the Houston Comets was the one that would contract him to go out and be like an advanced scout. So we go out to the games. The Silver Stars, when other teams like future opponents for the Comets were playing, and you go out there and you'd evaluate like new game tendencies for the players. You're looking for like play calls, right? Writing down like what hand signal or what verbal they used at a certain time, and then writing what they ran at that time, and just kind of tracking and keeping that stuff. He had a resume, so there was a lot of people that would reach out to him, and he started. I'd go out when he was doing the Comets, and we'd go to the game, and then we go back up to school and be there till 3 or 4 a.m. putting the scout together, and then faxing it. At that time, we were faxing, so we were faxing it back to those teams. We had enough teams asking that he would hand them off to me, like gave me a shot, like put me on and let me do that. Originally, it was New York Liberty was the first one that I did that first year, and then Atlanta Dream was another one. Then they moved to be Tulsa Shock, which became the Wings. Like it ended up being a really cool situation, really great opportunity to kind of get out there and learn and see a different style of basketball and see some different stuff and kind of make some new connections. So it was a pretty cool experience.
So do you use any of that experience as far as looking at the game to today to help you make certain decisions when you're watching the game, when you're breaking down tape to your players, or when you're just watching game yourself to see, oh, okay, he missed doing something here, missed that screen, he didn't slip right, things like that?
That was the first time that I had ever really seen people like call something, like let's say we're calling fist, right? Like in fist, one time would come down and it might be a wing entry. There would be a handoff into a stagger away, and it might be, the next time it might come down and be a entry to the top of the key, which would be something totally different, so just kind of learning like different things, like the ball based movements, right? Like where whatever they called was, they would run based on where the ball went, like that was kind of my first introduction to that, I guess, and just some different ways that teams get into stuff. I think the professional game as a whole, whether it's men or women, their game flow is fantastic. Like the way they go from their primary break to their secondary break to their, to their half court offense, to their end of clock quick hitters, stuff like that is I think to normal, like to regular people, even to me, like pre that time, I would say it just looked like they're out there playing, like, oh, everything's ISO basketball, everything like that. That's a big thing. Like people say that for the NBA, like it's ISO basketball, it's not really ISO basketball. It's just, they do it so seamlessly and so fluidly. It looks like they're just moving around, but it's all directed, all coordinated, all on the same page, all just so fluid, so being able to do some of that or kind of bring some of those concepts and trying to teach us how to get into different stuff without the old proverbial, like set it back up, set it up, like being able to get in from one thing to the next is, I think, cool. I mean, we'll still do, like, we'll reset stuff. We'll get back to the start. We'll do things like that occasionally, but the more that we can teach them to flow, I think that helps them when they move on to the next levels with the shot clocks and things like that.
Okay, cool. Got 2 more questions for you. That one, as far as your program, what you guys going to do, what you looking like for preseason? Where we at? Where I need to be at to come watch y'all?
Man, Dallas, to be honest, we're gone. I mean, we'll play, like, as far as the preseason stuff, like September, October, we'll play in Nagasso. We'll play in the Alamo City Hoops event here. We'll play in Littlefield Showcase. We'll play in Sloan, I think, has said that he's going to do one here as well. So we would play in all of those. Beyond that, like once we actually start the season, we'll go to Buff scrimmage up in Dallas. Then we open up there the next week again, playing Prosper, and then Duncanville at Duncanville for our second game. Then we're in Houston. Then we're, back to Houston, then back to Dallas. We're all around, just hunting a lot. Not that we couldn't find losses here. I'm sure we could definitely find losses here, but just hunting bodies and hunting a measuring stick, for where we are and those lessons that we'll hopefully need to learn to max out who we can be.
So your guys are gonna get the opportunity to play against Duncanville High School.
So that's our second game, our second actual game is Duncanville at Duncanville.
Nice. That's a regular season game.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great matchup. Number one, I mean, you have a great team like we talked about before. You got a lot of talented players, but like everybody in the state knows about Duncanville. So I just think that that's a great opportunity for your program out of San Antonio and, all the guys on your team to be able to, go face off against Duncanville in a official, game setting. So that's pretty cool.
It'd be a really, really good learning experience for them and us as coaches, I'm sure.
All right, Coach. Last question, and then we can just, sit and talk if you want to. But the last real question, the one that's going to be probably your hardest question. I know you have kids, right? And I know you're a coach. And one thing I always say, basketball coaches have the best personality, right? Out of all the coaches. That's my opinion. That's what I'm going to say, my opinion. So with that being said, go ahead and tell me a dad joke, Coach. Let's show that you do have that personality of in some sense of humor. Because every time I see you, you're very stern looking and very about that business. So again,
I gotta do some looking in the mirror. I don't know if that's the case, but all right, here we go. So why do chicken coops have two doors?
So the question is, why do chicken coops have two doors? Okay, I don't know.
Because if they have four doors, they'd be chicken sedans.
You got it. Look at you. See, I knew you had it in you, Coach. I knew you had it in you. So you got anything else for Coach?
Nah, that's a good one.
That was a good one, Coach. That was a good one. So real quick, let's talk about let's just, sit and talk a little bit in reference to getting players ready for the next level. What do you credit that one of your stronger attributes are the fact that, this is the year now and really that, you've been there long enough. You have some great talent before. And what do you credit the guys coming in, looking forward to playing? You said something great that I like that you said. You said your main concern are your seniors. I love to hear when coaches talk that way because, again, yes, you can have great freshmen and underclassmen coming in, but again, I always tell people this: your priority should be the seniors and juniors that you have playing in your program, because again, when that freshman becomes a senior, everybody want to know that you're taking care of them. So, what do you accredit that to? Or go ahead, you got something?
I wanted to just add. I wanted to add a little bit of context to that also. It just popped in my head,
okay.
But because you're talking about helping the seniors when it comes to like recruiting or focusing on them and stuff.
Yes.
But also, Coach, what advice do you have to give to the players and the parents to help you better understand what those players' objectives and goals are? Because I think sometimes kids and parents assume that it's the coach's job or responsibility to get these kids recruited,
That's a good
which,
point.
I see where they're coming from. But also, we all know that there's so much that goes into the college recruiting game. Like, you have to be proactive. And I'm saying this because how many kids and parents have gone up to you and specifically let you know that, like, look, we're trying to get him a scholarship. We're trying to get him to play to the next level. Because if parents aren't taking the time to, like, let you know what their goals are, and people just assume that, like, you're just supposed to get everybody a scholarship, but like there's some responsibility on the parents' end as well, and the players, so that everybody's on the same page. So you don't necessarily have to like answer that, but I want to just maybe that'll help you like when you're kind of answering Tally's question, and also just I want to just put that out there because so many kids and parents want to go to college or get scholarships and play at the next level, but they may have not taken the first step, which is like making sure that you have a great relationship with your high school coach, because he needs to know like what's going on, because he's going to be the one, you know, giving you access or talking to the other coaches that might have interest, or if they say they're looking for somebody and you have a player that can fit that, like you got to know what's going on. So it's a two-way street, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like for me personally, like I'm not saying we don't deal with parents. Like we definitely try to build relationships with our parents and things like that. But everything that we do goes through the kids, because the kids are the ones that matter. You know, like all like you're in high school now, so our primary communications are going to go through the kids, and we're gonna move based on what those kids are looking for and what they want, what they're desiring, what kind of work they're putting in. And that, right. Like, I think there's a lot of parents that would say like, my kid wants to play in college. And then you ask the kid and the kids, I don't want to play in college. Like, I'm not wanting to play in college, you know? So I think that's step one, is making sure that's all aligned, and the kid, we're moving towards the goal structure of the kids. Cause you can't really push a kid to do anything beyond their personal goal structure. What you can get them to want to do, you know, you could do it, you know, with like, let's say like fear factor and things like that on the front end. But if they don't want to do it, like if they don't care about it, if they're not invested into it, you're going to be beating your head against a wall. Right. Like, so I think that like helping them to actually want to do it and show them what the process looks like and things like that. If they're serious about it, like showing them what that process looks like, you know, what that work will look like, what that day will look like once they get there is really important. From that point on, I think asking the kids to give you a list of schools that they would like to play at, you know, and then trying to guide them as to what that is. I mean, now if you're you 5'1" senior point guard and you're coming in and saying, I want to play at Texas or A&M or Baylor, or like, now we're going to have to do a little soul searching and try to point you in the direction of where you might have a little more success, or be able to get a little more traction by sending stuff out, you know? So, I mean, again, just trying to point them in the right direction of what's the right level, you know, where areas in the country. I think that's really undersold for kids, of how their style of play might fit different regions, you know, different conferences, different levels, different things like that. I think it's a big thing. Like, a lot of kids have schools that they can play at, but do you want to travel to play at them? You know, like, I think there's a lot of kids that could go up and play at levels, if we're saying like Midwest levels, like Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas. There's a lot of schools up there. There's a lot of NAIA schools that give scholarships that have tons of opportunities. But are you willing to go and live there to do it? You know, and I think there's some kids that are, but there's a lot that aren't. So they end up going to an A&M or a UTSA or wherever it is and just being a student, just simply because they don't want to go and live that far away to chase that dream, right? Like, so I think that just trying to counsel and mentor a little bit on some of those things can go a long ways and help the kids and help the parents to decide if that's something they want to do, and then B, decide what the best path is for them to make that that dream a reality.
Well, Coach, like I told you on our phone conversation, I really do admire what you're doing over there. I think you're doing an amazing job, not just there at the school, but also outside in the community. Again, you're one of the top-notch programs here in San Antonio. And again, I'm glad you gave us the opportunity to, you know, come on the show and just talk with us for the last 45 minutes. Anything else that you want to bring light on, or just want to talk about, or?
Man, I don't know. I think one thing that we talked about a little bit on the phone, that I think is an interesting topic, is that blend of club basketball to high school basketball. and some of those relationships and things like that. I mean, you talked a lot about that the other day, and just the importance of having a positive relationship on that, and kind of having a plan and being direct. I'm not necessarily being direct with the kids. Both sides are going to give a little and both sides are going to take a little, but making sure that having that right, the kid's best interest in mind and in your actions, more so than in mind, but in actions, is huge.
Well, that's one thing that I try to believe in, to think that I think as far as program wise, the AAU side definitely needs to make sure they have conversations with you as the high school coach. And to me, my opinion about it, as far as there has to be a balance of the two, like you mentioned, but at the same time, we all have to make sure we have the best interest of the child at the end of the day. It's just like a marriage. I can't be going out there running a bunch of bad tournaments and then at the same time telling you I'm getting your guys ready. And then you look at me and like, Coach, no, you just played in 5 events that, yes, they got reps, but they got meaningless reps. Because, again, like I always say, there's levels to this. So with that being said, I do believe as far as there has to be a better connection of the two, as far as the club side and the high school side. And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this.
Yeah. How much of the conflict between those two is just the time split, right? Like the respecting the other's time.
Correct.
Like we've never, since I've been at Brennan, we haven't played in a summer league, and club basketball has really been the primary reason. Now, we played in a place where a majority of our kids didn't play club basketball. We do a summer league. Like, we would do that. But if you're in a place where a bunch of your kids are playing summer basketball, playing in summer leagues, and now the club coach is looking at you like, well, he's missing practice tonight because you got summer league. But then on the flip side, like, the high school coach is mad in November when you're trying to play a high school club tournament, on a Saturday or a Sunday, and those kids are out there playing that. Like, I think it's just understanding the calendar and trying to again, be more about the kids than we are about our individual motives. And there's no shot at anybody. Like, we all kind of see stuff different and things like that. But I think a lot of the issues and a lot of the battles come more so from that calendar split and respecting both sides, respecting, in March, April, those are heavy club months. July is heavy club month, so kind of respecting those times. And then club guys understanding not only is it frowned upon by all high school coaches to play club basketball during their high school season. Like, it's typically probably just not that great of an idea if they're practicing 3 days a week or 6 days a week with their high school team, playing games 2-3 nights a week with their high school team. Like, on that Saturday and Sunday, they probably don't need more reps. They probably need a rest. Like, they probably need to go, sit down and stretch and just relax and get back to neutral so their bodies can make it through, as opposed to playing a 3-gamer on a Sunday afternoon, and then you come back Monday morning or Monday afternoon or whenever you practice and you're tired. So just kind of respecting that time, I think would be big.
I got a couple comments. One, what would you say is like kind of that calendar? So like, when kind of is that cutoff? Like, when is it AAU time and when is it high school time?
Like, personally, I would say it's high school time from September through whenever your team loses in the playoffs. Like, to me, I would say that would be high school time. Most high schools are going to play in fall leagues. Most of them are going to play in events throughout the fall. Then once you start practicing, you're going 5-6 days a week from then until the end of the season. Then I would say it flips. So then February hits. It doesn't mean that the high schools aren't going to still have their athletic period. We definitely are, but and some will play. Like, it definitely varies location to location. If you had, and the base of your kids, what you have. You got a bunch of kids that aren't club kids. They're not out there playing on teams. Like, definitely they need to be playing. Otherwise they're losing opportunities in comparison to everybody else who is playing because they're in club basketball, but going that February through whatever we want to say, like through the end of May, probably club time. June, I get like still practicing club, things like that. There'll be a few events in June club wise, but there's also the TABC events for high schools in June now too, and a lot of high school programs are going to utilize that now, UIL calendar where you can work them out on the court an hour a day and two hours of strength and conditioning a day. They are going to utilize that time, that clock, and be able to do it, for very cheap, very reasonable rates. I mean, we're talking like super, super inexpensive stuff where a lot of these programs are investing in them, their skill development at that time. They are investing in them as individuals at that time, and then again, July is club time. August, I believe, is kind of nobody time. Like, it should be kid time.
Should be rest time, correct.
Or now, like, and now is different because I know a lot of colleges are doing their elite camps in August, which is tough. Like, that's really tough on the kids' bodies because I know a lot of them would love to use that August window to rest and to be off and to get back from club and regenerate for their high school season. But, I get it. I understand. So.
And that's why I say, just to shout out to yourself and all the coaches I had prior to, one thing they did a good job is having relationships with their club guys. And again, that's the part of it all, is just making sure that the club guys have respect enough to just sit down with the high school coaches and just say, hey, this is what I have. And, he's in my program. And then just take the lead off of what you're doing. And then that kind of helps the whole balance of it all. And that way, one group's not overusing them, because at the end of the day, school pride is very important and at the top of a lot of people's priority list. And then comes club ball. So if most people look at it that way, that's how it should be. Definitely have the high school coaches in their ear and making sure, hey, I'm doing what you're asking of me, and then vice versa.
And
It's
on that,
for sure a balance. Like, it's a balance. Like, I think that it's not one over the other. Like, I think that both are needed. If you're trying to play college basketball, both are needed. You're for sure going to be able to, in a majority of situations, be able to play in front of more eyes, club wise, than you will high school wise. But I think that high school component is huge too, just because the college calendar so much more closely resembles a high school calendar. You're going every day a week. You're going 4 practices for 1 game. Things like that is more about that consistent grind and that consistent development than it is going to practice a few times and then play a lot of games, but again, like both are super necessary. And we're blessed, I think, to have a lot of really good club guys. I think there's a lot of really quality club programs around here, like saying like Hard Work with Booman and Pooty and Dale and them, and Mark, like Coach Soto, I mean, Vase does a good job, like there's a a lot of really quality programs. I know there's a bunch of other, like Coach Lou with the Toros, like there's a lot of them that do a really good job and do a really great job of balancing that calendar and making sure their kids have opportunities to succeed high school wise and club wise. So, that to my knowledge, from what I've seen, all those guys really want to work with that high school calendar and really want what's best for those kids,
That's it. Anything else?
Yeah, just one last thing. For your home games and that you're going to be playing during the season for the high school season, what location, where do you guys going to be playing most of your home games at?
I mean, we play all of our games at one of the 3 Northside, like district gyms, like Northside Gym, Paul Taylor, Harlan. I think so. I think in town, I think that's every game that we play will be at one of those 3 spots. Yeah, our only San Antonio non-district game is Clark, and that'll be at Northside Gym. So everything else will be one of those 3 spots.
Cool. That's great. Those are all great facilities. Paul Taylor, Northside Gym. That's probably one of my favorite ones, Northside Gym. And then Harlan's. I've seen you guys play there over the years as well. So all nice, beautiful facilities. So all right, cool. Just for the people watching, if they want to check you guys out, they know that they can go to one of those places to watch you guys play.
And the schedule should be up. Like I don't know. Like I guess I haven't really seen like the other districts if theirs are up yet, but I know we just kind of got our preliminary schedule emailed to us early this week, so everybody's double checking it to see no mistakes and ironing out some kinks and some different stuff like that. So all these schedules should be coming up here in the next couple weeks, I would think.
We'll definitely make sure we get that information put out for everybody just to kind of follow also. Well, hey, again, thank you, Coach. I'll be around checking you guys out. If you don't mind, I'd love to come to check out one of your practices, and then just come and talk to a few of your players, and then for the most part, just come and show support. Again, I really think you guys have a bright future this year. I told everybody, a few years ago, this is the time to where as though Brennan's going to really make a big move. And again, last year you proved it a little early. I didn't project you guys to do anything you did last year. So again, kudos to you. But again, you have a bright future, and then once again, continue doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
All right, Koty, have a good one, buddy.